Hello, welcome to Family Movie Night, where we'll be talking about what we watch for Family Movie Night. I'm Mike, and today we are talking about Wicked for Good. Wicked for Good is the Act Two for the 2024 smash hit Wicked. A premise of Wicked for Good: Elphaba, the future Wicked Witch of the West, and her relationship with Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, the second of the two-part feature film adaptation of the Broadway musical. My God, that feels like a very lazy synopsis, but whatever. This is directed by John M. Chu. This is the sequel again to the 2024 smash hit Wicked, and this is, in essence, part two of the Wicked stage musical. So this is the second act. This again stars Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande, Jeff Goldblum, Michelle Yeoh, Jonathan Bailey, Ethan Slater, Marissa Bodie, and Bowen Yang, Bronwyn James, and then Coleman Domingo for a cup of coffee. Yeah, we'll just go with that. So, a couple things right off the bat. I had seen the stage musical before, so I knew I had some preconceived notions about the second act that were some concerns, but ultimately I trusted the team that was ultimately associated with this. So, we'll start with that. My feelings on the stage musical is that I really love it, but recognizing full well that there is a recognizable difference between Act One and Act Two. Act Two slows down a little bit. There's a bit of a time jump associated with it because we need to establish a little bit more time that Elphaba has become the Wicked Witch of the West, sort of, I guess. But ultimately, what it boils down to, in my humble opinion, is that Act Two isn't as good as Act One, in my opinion. Act Two, there's some moments that they try to incorporate a lot of the Wizard of Oz lore in there to be like, remember, that's the Cowardly Lion. Oh, that's the Tin Man. Dorothy's silhouette pops up every now and again, but it's not really a consequential character in the stage musical. The songs not as good as the first act, and then the big issue is that your two main characters, which you spend all of the first act waiting for them to become friends and see their friendship develop. They're split up because they're on two completely separate paths with Elphaba and Glinda. And then ultimately at the end there's some storylines that are kind of just left hanging out there in the stage musical that you're like, well, that didn't amount to much. So I'm looking at you, animal storyline, looking at you, like, well, that's the main one. The stage musical, the stage adaptation that I saw didn't really have much with Nessa in the second act, except for the fact that she just tries to keep Bach with her the whole time, but that's about it. We don't see a whole lot of interaction between Glinda and Elphaba. None of this Yellow Brick Road nonsense, none of this, Dorothy being mentioned like by name, big emphasis on like, oh, I remember that moment from The Wizard of Oz, which I get it. The Wizard of Oz is a big piece that is happening in this movie. So, with that being said, where do I fall on Wicked for Good? Do I do thumbs up, thumbs down, or thumbs middle? And I'm going to go right smack in the middle with thumbs middle. And here's there's a lot to love about Wicked for Good, and I know that my that Gigi loved it because of course she was going to love it because there's singing, there's very theatrical, there's a lot of like bright colors and funny characters. And my other youngest, or my youngest, she liked it too, even though you could tell that she was a little bored during it because this is a 15-minute movie for some strange reason. So what's to like about this is that Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande still continue to knock this out of the park. They're still really great at bringing these characters to life. You could tell the emotion on both of their faces. The emotion when they're singing is still really strong. Uh, I thought the new songs were fine, I guess. They didn't really bring much to the table, except for the fact is like, oh, Alphabet said, "No place like home," like they did in the original. It's like, thanks for continuing to remind us that the Wizard of Oz is like down the road for these characters. I thought the direction was still really solid. I love the set design, the costumes, all of that. This movie is going to eat all of those awards up, which is good because it definitely deserves it. I like that they expanded certain stories. So I like that they gave Glinda a little bit more of a backstory about how she's always wanted to be magical. She's always, had that in her head, and she's always wanted to be a people pleaser. I do like that. I suppose I should preface this by saying I'm going to spoil this, so just I'll put a spoiler warning on this. So editing, we're gonna spoil this, so just heads up about that. But another thing that I like that they expanded the animal storyline a little bit and actually made it matter a little bit. That there is some levity that happens at the end that Elphaba continues to, see the tyranny of the witch. You get to see the monkeys, the flying monkeys, their slightly expanded role, and the cowardly lion talks a little, I guess. I thought Jeff Goldblum was great. I think this act is what solidified him as probably the right choice for the wizard. So I give him that as well. All right. What didn't I like about this? Or what did I think that they did fine? There's a lot to say about what I think they did fine for this. So I guess I'll start with Michelle Yeoh because Michelle Yeoh's character, Madame Morrible, no, does she have the most powerhouse voice in the company? No. And at the end of the day, I'm not coming to hear Michelle Yeoh sing, so who cares? But I thought she did very well considering the part that she had, which is I am propagandizing, is that a word? All of this stuff that's going on with the Wicked Witch just to, expand my means and see what I can do to continue to create influence in Oz, particularly with the wizard. Uh, I thought the rest of the cast didn't get a whole lot to do. And that's a second act problem because as you've split everyone up a lot more, they don't really have an opportunity to focus a lot of their attention on a lot of the other characters. I think Fiyero and Bach were the two characters that maybe could have used a little bit more attention, but they didn't. And considering what happens to them at the end of the movie, yeah, you would want a little bit more levity. Like, for example, it kind of seemed like it came out of nowhere that Bach was holding an axe and then he's chopping wood. Is he chopping wood because he's frustrated? Is he chopping wood because he's really good at it? I don't know. They don't really say much about that in Act One. And if they would have said, or if they would have just expanded the story a little bit more in the first movie, or even a little bit more in this one, there could have been some potential for there to be a little bit more there in terms of, okay, why is he swinging an axe again? I think Nessa was fine as a character, largely used as a prop for Glinda, which I guess makes sense. And then Fiyero as well. Fiyero is another character where his greatest hits were in the first movie, and in this one, could have used a little bit more of like, hey, I've been trying to find you, different things like that. But no, that's not what happened at all. And then the things that didn't really work for me that much is I think I'm just going to go out on a limb and say it. My buddy Heath wrote this in his letterbox review, and I completely agree. I think this was a mistake to make this into two movies. And the reason why is because this movie, at the end, when they're singing For Good together, the goal is for everybody to be a puddle of tears watching these two say goodbye to one another, which, yes, that's understandable. I, and I can only speak for myself, I felt nothing during that. And the reason why is because the movie is asking you, hey, remember all the stuff that happened in the first movie and all of the good graces made that kind of built up to make Defying Gravity such like a powerhouse performance when they're finally saying goodbye to one another. we're not giving you a whole lot in this movie to give them some type of interaction to show that, like, hey, these two actually care about each other a lot. And they're asking you to remember everything that happened in Act One, which in a stage musical, when it's a 10-minute intermission, that's fine. Like, you can remember all of that. When it's been a whole year since the release of this movie, then that doesn't work. So I think that this movie did make a little bit of a mistake by not giving us more interactions with Galinda and Elphaba, which admittedly they gave them more interaction in this movie than the stage adaptation did give in Act Two. So I will give them a little bit of credit for that. But they got for a writer, Winnie Holtzman, who wrote like the script and the dialogue for Wicked the stage musical. You would think that between her and the rest of the writers that were in this, they would have reevaluated more things that were kind of issues in Act Two, because people are going to say it because like the pacing is all over the place. There's not a whole lot of focus, and like this didn't need to be 2 hours and 15 minutes because I felt like this was a slog of a movie. But you would think that they would take a look and say, okay, some of the issues that people have continually said in terms of story, in terms of pacing, in terms of characters, all of that from the over 20 years that the stage musical has been out. Let's see what we can do to tweak that. And they did tweak some things, but they didn't tweak enough for me to actually think that they did a good enough job for making Wicked for Good a good standalone movie. Like I think that Coleman Domingo is a phenomenal performer and he's largely wasted in this. And I think that the announcement that Coleman Domingo is the Wizard of Oz, or is in Wicked for Good as the Cowardly Lion, set an unrealistic expectation for people thinking that they're going to get more Wizard of Oz elements. Because all of us who have seen the stage musical know that we don't care about the stuff that's going on with like the Wizard of Oz legacy characters. We care more about Elphaba and Galinda and what happens to their relationship. So the fact that they keep teasing all these moments with Dorothy, they keep teasing all of these interactions and these moments with like the origins of the Tin Man and the Scarecrow, and all of that, like, it was frustrating. And the fact that like we didn't even get to see Dorothy's face, I don't care about that, mainly because I knew that it was just a fringe thing. But I could see a lot of people getting frustrated at that moment saying, who's Dorothy? Is it going to be a big name person? Is it going to be Dove Cameron? Is it going to be the girl who played Matilda in Matilda the musical, the on Netflix? Who's it going to be? And at the end of the day, it does not matter. That's the point, is that all of this is going on, it's background noise compared to what this is here. And I feel like the marketing department did a giant disservice by saying, hey, this is Coleman Domingo. And I think that they were doing it to just try to generate some buzz. And yeah, I think it worked, just not in the way that they had hoped. Favorite part, I guess, of this is that I got to admit, I thought the fight between Elphaba and Glinda in Munchkin Land after Elphaba discovers that Nessa is gone because of the house, and that Dorothy is running off with her shoes. I think that it's hilarious, the fight and the interaction between those two. And as much as I criticize, the lack of emotion for Good, that doesn't change the fact that it's a great song, sung by two phenomenal performers, and that part where Glinda gets pushed into the broom curtain or the broom closet, and she has to just kind of see the silhouette of everything that's going on. She has to stay quiet. That part got me. Maybe not as much as like any of the other parts from like the first movie or anything like that, but that part got me good. And then what did I learn from Wicked for Good? Holistically, on a whole level view, is that I feel like this could have been trimmed down and this could have been a great 2.5 hour movie. And I think that this would have been an all-timer if they had played their cards right. But capitalism wins out at the end of the day. This movie is going to make a truckload of money between the two of them for Universal. So I get why this was split up into two movies. However, the thing that I learned the most, and this is what I learned from Wicked as well, the musical, is that you stay true to yourself. You stay true to what's important to you. And that's what matters at the end of the day. And then the last part is that people, anybody can be friends, but to be two best friends, to have a friend like that, to change your life in a way that it's irreversible, the good that is going to come from the change that they've had. Those types of friendships don't come along very often. And then I guess on a higher level view as well is that don't meet your heroes because your heroes are always going to disappoint you. So those are my thoughts on Wicked for Good. What did you think? Did you like it? Let me know in the comments below, and then we can keep the conversation going. But that's going to do it for this episode of Family Movie Night. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe to anything and everything SPDM Crew, wherever you get your podcast. Join us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Blue Sky at SPDM Crew. Check out our website at .com. Follow us on Letterboxd at 2452 and follow our list labeled Family Movie Night. Shout out to iFlyer Creative Studios for making our awesome logo. Greatly appreciate their support. Check out the other shows on our network. We've got a lot of great content and a lot of great work that's being done by the rest of the members of the crew. So please check out the other shows on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network. And finally, if you've got a podcast idea or you're interested in being part of the SPDM Crew as a guest or collaborating, email us at spdmcrew@gmail.com. Until next time, happy watching, friends.